If you've ever ran a dual spindle CNC lathe, or if you're considering getting one, this video is for you. The subspindle is one of the most powerful features on a machine like this. Done right, it eliminates the second setup, cuts your cycle time in half sometimes, and lets you run lights out on complete parts that used to require 2 different operations on 2 separate machines. Now, done wrong, it could mark your parts, push your part back, screw up all your dimensions where you make scrap, and creates problems that are incredibly hard to diagnose if you don't know what to look for. Today, I'm going to walk you through a few things that I've learned that will save you time, save you scrap, and save you a lot of headaches in the future. Let's get into it. First thing I want to talk about is our subspindle work holding. Or what we use mostly is collet pads like this. Generally, when you're transferring with your subspindle, you want to use smooth collet pads. If there's someone out there that uses serrated on their sub side normally, drop a comment because I'd love to hear about it. I'll use serrated pads like these on the main spindle. Because they're serrated, they're made with these sharp grooves inside of them that make it so the part cannot push back. It grips down. But because we're turning that away, doesn't matter if it leaves marks. But on our second side, with our finished part, we want to make sure that that gets to the customer beautiful, shiny, pristine, and perfect. So you don't want to use serrated pads on your sub side. Unless, like I said, someone out there does, I'd love to hear about it. In addition to just smooth versus serrated, the size. Generally, if I have a part that's 2-inch finished diameter that I'm going to transfer on, I'm going to use 2-inch smooth pads that are in good condition. Anyone out there that's ran a lot of collet pads knows sometimes they get bugged up, especially soft pads. So if I have a part that's 1.977, I'm not going to use 2-inch pads. That's 23 thousandths above the finished part. So I'm going to try to find pads that are within a few thousandths of that finished diameter. And if you don't have them, you can use emergency pads. I'm going to blip up a short little video here of when I bored some of them and I made a short on it. Emergency pads are soft steel, whereas smooth and serrated right out of the box, they're hardened. You're going to have a really hard time boring these pads, although I have done it. So if it's a special size that you don't have hard pads for, don't just put something in hoping it'll work. Find the right size. If you don't have them, keep a set of emergency pads on hand and make them. Bottom line, your subspindle collet pads need to be smooth, they need to be in good condition, and they need to be sized within a few thousandths of your part diameter. You get this wrong, and everything downstream is going to be a problem and a headache. Which leads me right to the next point. The next topic I want to talk about is spindle synchronization before the transfer. This is the one that can cause the most dramatic failure on a first-time sub-spindle setup. If your spindles are not synchronized before part transfers, you're going to know about it, and it's not going to be subtle. So those are a couple subspindle transfers that I've done in the past. I do them a lot, every single day. The code that we use to ensure that it's synchronized, we can see right here in this program, M213 or M214. On this particular Fanuc, on this particular brand of machine. Other machines have different M codes and different ways to get there, but on here, it's M213 or M214 for spindle and orientation sync. To ensure that as you're transferring, if you're calling 100 RPM, that they both activate at 100 RPM. Spindle sync it the right way, using the proper code for your control in your machine. Right along with the spindle sync, while we're talking about programming, we're going to lay out line by line my program here on how I set it up. It goes further than just adding an M code, M203 or M213 or whatever it may be. So hopefully you can see this well. Head 1, head 2, or path 1, path 2, turret 1, turret 2. And what I like to do What we like to do is to have our cutoff, you can see here, N50, I'm going to cursor down, N100, cursor down, and the end lines are what I call man-readables. The machine doesn't see them as a code, and they're good for different points in the program that you want to bring notice to or quick reference, and that's what I use them. Our transfer is always N50 on path 1, N100 on path 2, so I could go right down to it. Now let's kind of go line by line, see what we got. And when we hit the weighting codes, M918 or 919, we're going to jog back and forth so you can see the program. And if you're not familiar with weighting codes, like M918, 919, any of the M900s, I made a video just on weighting codes. Check it out. Very informative. So tool 7, going to call out my tool. That's my cutoff. M56 and M100 are like safety interlocks. I'm going to go to my rapid position in Z for my cutoff. I don't know why I doubled up M110, but whatever. Now M918 is a weighting code. I'm going to wait there until I see it here. So I'm going to go to path 2, M134. And I'm not going to go through every code, but this is my code for my parts basket. GO A -3. A is my subspindle axis, so I'm going to go up, I'm going to dump the part. M131 is operate with collet open, M169 subspindle collet open, M116 is my ejector. I got a little dwell, GOG28A0, which I don't need the G28, but I'm going to go home. N12 is ejector retract. G97 S100 P21 is putting on my subs at 100 RPM. Shut it off now. I don't know why. I'm going to have to go through and find, oh, this is going to be some type of coolant flush. And you can see my spindle jogging from M4 to M3. I'm jogging my spindle back and forth to clean it. Now M918. So now this is going to proceed. It's going to see this M918. I'm going to go down. So we're going to go back to the path 1. It's going to hit M919 and wait until it sees it here. GOW -14 is my lower turret incrementally moving over 14 inches for clearance for my spindle to move up, which you'll see. Now M919. Now they're going to go together. What they're going to do together, G96 S450, M213 is my spindle sync main and sub. It's going to hit another weighting code, M920. So then M919, I'm going to move up to my approach position with my sub spindle, A -23.7. That's my rapid approach. Now I'm going to feed to my position, 75 inches a minute. M920, now we're going to wait. So what's M920 over here? M921, it's going to wait till it sees it over here, which is there. Now it's going to jog to 922. And I know it seems like a lot. Now this is my approach for my cutoff. Rapid to X2.5, feed down. Oh yeah, we missed one part over here. M920, the reason it is M920 is going to wait till it sees it here. M168 is going to close. So it moved up to position, collet, close. Now it's going to wait until it sees my 921 here. Now it's going to cut off. GOG28, go home. M922. M922 over here. It's going to go home in A. And then when it sees it, it's going to go home in Z. A axis is going to go home. Parts catcher is going to come up. That goes in. Lower turret's going to move over for clearance. Subspindle's going to move up. Feed into position. Now the cutoff is going to do its job and part off. And within that is all those waiting codes until wait for it to close and wait for it to approach. The next topic is ensuring that your work holding on your sub side is holding properly after you part off after you transfer. Again, this is very, very common sense. Everyone who's watching this, you guys are all really smart. I'm sure it's obvious, but I'm going to cover it anyways. If you're setting up your sub spindle for the first time, or if you're relatively new to it, the amount of pressure on your sub is very, very important. Now, if you're picking up on an OD thread, which I do a lot, I've heard people say don't pick up on a thread, you'll deform it. We're picking up on 3 threads right here, right now, high quantity runs, we're not having a problem. If you are picking up on a thread, make sure you're not damaging it, number 1. Number 2, if you have a critical OD or ID, tight tolerance, especially with a thin wall, ensure that you're not deforming the part as you're crushing on it. That can be adjusted with your hydraulic pressure of your work holding. But this is probably the biggest part, and this is what I check on every transfer part that I do after I cut off and my part is in the sub spindle. I ask myself, did the transfer work like it was supposed to? After I cut off, I visually inspect the part in the sub, and then I use a brass hammer to check one last thing. Here's our brass hammer in question. Is it overkill? Definitely. Did I make it with my own 2 hands out of scrap stock? Yep. You want to see how I did it? Check it out. It's a few months ago. I made this using manual machining techniques. It was a lot of fun. I'll show you what I do. So here's our part in our sub, and I do not want to scrap this part. You're just going to give it a little tap to see if it pushes back. If it does push back, adjust your hydraulic pressure, make sure your pads are good. So that is sub spindle transferring, cutting off, picking up, however you like to refer to it. I would have to say the most difficult part of that would have to be the programming. When I first went over it a long time ago, the weighting codes really threw me off. It was difficult for me to understand because I was used to a single spindle, single turret machine. Or when I first started, like I've talked about before, cam-driven Brown and Sharps. I have no idea what a weighting code is. It's just a different lobe on the cam. So anyhow, if anyone out there has some experience with that and then went into the world of CNC like I did, drop a comment. Let's talk stories. The sub spindle is one of the most powerful tools on a machine like this, and it can transform how you run parts and what your shop is capable of. It can reward the machinists who understand all the fine details, jaw selection, tool selection, programming, and how to optimize those to make your machine and your shop run better. If this helped you, hit subscribe. Share it with someone that you think can learn from it. We put out real content from a real shop every week. Drop your questions in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm Luke, this is Crusader Machining. I gotta get back to work.